Beckie, I am so excited to have you on with us today. And I'm going to jump right in. And I'm going to say that on following along your life and career, there is one word that comes to mind, and it is integrity. Integrity as an athlete, integrity as an advocate, integrity as a citizen. And I'm wondering if you have always felt that that has defined you.
Oh, good question. I'm not sure that I ever ever saw myself, that way when I was younger. I think that the integrity element of so much of what I have done in sport and beyond sport was really actually probably shaped by sport and my experience in sport. And so, and just came to the forefront as a result of the values I had, the beliefs I had, and caring so much about some of the things that I did enough to get involved and to take action on many of them.
Talk a little bit more about how sports shaped you kind of in the earlier days from a young age.
So, I grew up in a small town in northeastern Alberta. My parents were both outdoor enthusiasts. So, a lot of my childhood was spent either backpacking or canoeing in the summer and skiing with them in the winter. They both started the local ski club in Vermilion. Our home bordered the provincial park, so I could actually just ski out the back door. So it was very much, woven into the fabric of my childhood, just as a way of being, a way of life with my family. It was outside, it was community, it was family, and it progressed from there into competition, but very naturally. Like there was no big shift. It was, let's do some races. That sounds like fun, and I sort of just grew a real affinity for competition and being part of that world at a very young age, actually, and really liked it. I found it exciting and decided at a very young age that I wanted to pursue it as well.
I've heard you say that you actually weren't a natural athlete. Is that true? I think I find that hard to believe given how much you've accomplished.
Yeah, it is true. I and yeah, I tried a lot of sports as a kid. A lot of sports, and was always sort of gently encouraged to maybe try something else that I had a little more, agility or skill. But I love sports, and I still do. And I still have such an appreciation for just activity and all of the rest. But I certainly was not a talented athlete or anyone I think at a young age that was shining or rising above or really standing out from the crowd. I was very average as far as any kind of athletic talent was concerned.
So, what was it then? Was it drive? Was it the fact that you were enjoying yourself so much?
I think it was a combination. I think I did really see the joy in the pursuit. I really had a strong affinity for the atmosphere of racing and competition. I just found it thrilling. And then I was also, yes, I was also very driven. I think I had a tremendous, um, you know, drive and ambition. I wanted to do well in the sport. I wanted to be exceptional at this sport, and I think I was also, resilient because my
Mm.
early years in the sport were very much defined by poor results and the depth of field that existed on the World Cup circuit internationally speaking. It was incredible. And with stepping into that world for the first couple of years, I was really far behind. My results were back of the pack, lower third of the results page. And so there was a lot of, just picking myself up and trying it again and staying with it and working harder and just seeing if I could get to that goal.
But it seems you reached a tipping point because your first World Cup podium in 2001, something shifted, right? Everything seemed to change. So, what was that? Was it a mindset for you?
So, I think things shifted actually for us largely after the Nagano '98 Olympic Games. I think that was sort of, that was where the team really had hit bottom in a lot of ways. Like I,
Mm.
I remember, the whole experience was sort of disappointment after disappointment. And there was a few of us that came out of those Olympics feeling the same, like, it doesn't get any worse. And we have 4 years now. to Salt Lake City in 2002. What do we need to do to to overcome, to be better, to build, on something here, and not repeat these performances. And so it was a process that started actually, following the '98 Olympics. It was an evolution in terms of professionalism, in terms of approach, in terms of, taking apart the performances and looking at everything from, nutrition to psychology to technique to physiology, and changing everything, dramatically in some cases, so that, results would change and performances could be improved. And in addition to that, I think we also worked out really well as a team. Like, it was a very much a collaborative, united effort, because I think we recognized the power in working together and supporting each other through this. Like, we were all, coming from places of real disappointment in the sport, and how do we build upon, that, but also help each other excel and help each other. And that was a true shift as well for us as a team, I think, because it really enabled us to celebrate success when we saw it in each other, and know, okay, if, I can do that too.
So, Becky, you get to the point where you're at the top of your game. You are mentally ready, you're physically ready. There are rumors of your competitors doping. So, you are exercising fair play, but you know that others around you may not be. Does that affect you psychologically?
Yeah. I mean, it's devastating when it's your life's work, when it's something that you've been pursuing since childhood, when it's more. I think for a sport, a lot of, athletes will tell you it's more than a job. It's a life, it's a passion, it's a dream. It's so much more. And to have the knowledge that this is, being thwarted or being compromised, and that your results and your performances may never actually be the real true results
Mm.
of the day, because you're, staying on one side of the line and others are, crossing it freely and openly, and many of them are doing that. It's incredibly frustrating, incredibly difficult to deal with. But at the same time, as an athlete, that your performance often speaks, louder than anything you can say publicly. So you have to balance that energy that you're spending on being frustrated and so dismayed with the situation, with having enough energy and enough focus to perform as you are capable of,
Mm.
which in my case was, just pulling it together at the Olympics. Everything came together at the right moment, at the right time, and I think we knew as a team and as individuals, it is possible to beat. It is possible to, be better than athletes who are doping, if you can do everything right and just get it
Mm.
perfect on the day. And that's what I had to focus on the day, and sort of leave the rest behind. But knowing, that, yeah, it was always going to be part of it.
So obviously, complete vindication. Within a couple of years, you had your gold medal in hand, and this no doubt fueled the work that you ended up doing with WADA. Um, how would you describe that time? Because I know that your tenure there were some victories, and there were some times that were fraught with challenges, and the challenges continue on after your tenure.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, and one that I would describe as, well, initially, it was very different than how it ended up. So I was there for
Mhm.
6 years, and in the first couple of years, I was with the athlete committee, and just, taking it in. And I would say that the landscape was relatively. There were some, scandals and upheavals and whatnot, and WADA certainly didn't function perfectly, but it functioned well. And for an organization that was sort of at that point in its development, it was evolving as it could, or as it should, in a lot of ways, including with athlete representation. And then Russia happened, and as the chair of the athlete committee, it became really apparent to us and the athlete committee in particular that our views and our perspectives on it were increasingly different than the views and perspectives of the leadership there, which were, in our view and in my view, were being increasingly influenced by the International Olympic Committee and
Mhm.
coming under pressure from that one stakeholder in particular. So it became very challenging. It became very difficult, and but at the same time, we were hearing from athletes around the world about the importance of our role being a voice at this table. So, as the chair of that committee, I was often the one at the table, expressing the views and the perspectives and the opinions of the athletes on some very, you know, very politically divisive um, topics and subjects and subject matter. And it certainly was not always easy, that's for sure, or comfortable.
So you stepped down from that role in 2019, but I know you speak on this a lot. So what's your message to sort of the greater public when it comes to maintaining integrity and ethics in sport? I mean, what can coaches and sort of average people do to help?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because that is one of the messages I often try to
Mhm.
leave, people with when I do speak, and that is that there is a role for everyone, and it's one everyone has to take seriously. It's been left, I think, in the hands of some very powerful organizations and administrators for a bit too long because the best interests of sport are not necessarily the best interests of business,
Mm.
and there has been a noticeable shift towards the business interests of sport. And I think for us as citizens, as parents, as community members, it's really important that sport stays a place of good, of integrity and fairness and equality and opportunity. And we all have a role there, whether that is coaching, a little soccer team and helping the kids understand the importance of fairness and why it's for all of us to do, and why we have to all play a role, up to leaders of national sport federations and beyond, getting involved, paying attention, read the reports, write letters if you have to, make an effort to ask the hard questions. And I think I think it's really important that we all do that, and make an effort to protect sport and keep it as a place that we want to see it, because it is in a very vulnerable place right now, and in a lot of there's a lot of risk involved, I think.
Well, that really leads us into a discussion about your passion, which is Spirit North. So, what is Spirit North and what does it hope to accomplish?
So Spirit North is a nonprofit organization I started a number of years ago, and it's really sport for development. So it is sport as a platform for Indigenous children and youth who have not necessarily or historically always had that opportunity or access to that opportunity the way non-Indigenous youth have in Canada, to um, become, empowered, inspired, to engage in activity that, promotes health and wellness, education, community involvement, but more, probably most importantly, gives kids the opportunity to just experience the transformative power that sport can be. So the life skills that come with that, that the mental health, like joy and inclusion and belonging and self-esteem, so it's a organization. We started it here in Alberta, with just 4 communities. It was kind of a pilot to see how things would go, and to see if this would really how it would be received. And it's now expanded to 63 communities across the country. And yeah, it's been remarkable. It's a really fun and rewarding project to be a part of, just because I think that it has given, an opportunity that wasn't there before to a population of kids and youth who are really impacted in the most positive ways from it. And yeah, it's very special.
Well, I have to think that I mean you felt compelled to do this because you firsthand understand the power of sport and the way it can translate into life skills. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, what did it give you, and what do you wish to pass on to others?
Yeah, I definitely, I think it gave me, in a lot of ways, the kind of life skills and life experiences that no other opportunity would have. And, you know, like I was a kid from northeastern Alberta with no real talent, to speak of, honestly, nothing special, and lived out this incredible life, career. And had so many doors opened and so many incredibly powerful, transformative experiences because of sport.
Mm,
And so, and I would say, even in community sport, the camaraderie, the teamwork, all the friendships and lessons that come even with participating in community sport. And so it impacted my life in unbelievably positive ways in all kinds of different arenas. And so I really feel strongly that it should be an opportunity that is available to everyone and accessible for everyone.
COVID has made life difficult for so many of us, but I'm sure that this is putting Spirit North in a bit more of a precarious position. How has it been impacted?
Yeah, we have felt the impact, of course, because Indigenous communities are living with the, very real probability of more severe outcomes
Mm,
if the virus gets into the communities because of, the inequality in all kinds of areas, including, lack of healthcare and services and overcrowded housing. But at the same time, we're hearing from many of the communities who take part in our programs that the program is needed more than ever because kids have been living with, such disruption, anxiety, social isolation, and lack of organized activities. So there is such a place for Spirit North to be as part of this, response. And we're just navigating, how do we do it safely? How do we do it while really ensuring the health and well-being of the greater community and still accessing kids who really need outdoor activity and programming.
mm.
So, the one advantage we have is that we are an outside land-based program. So we
Right.
automatically have that going for us, and it's really easy to do the physical and social distancing. And beyond that, we're just going to be as careful as we can and, of course, abide by any other community desires and
Mm.
wishes.
Well, we'll make sure we have the website up so people can explore and learn a lot more, and hopefully help spread the word about Spirit North. Becky, just a couple of more questions. Um, you, as a role model, as a woman, how do you regard that specifically?
I never thought about it much actually until I got into the world of international sport politics, and it really became apparent. The hierarchy became quite, evident at times, and I have to say, like, I hadn't experienced it as overtly until then, and so yeah, it was eye opening, but it certainly didn't ever feel like it was something I would see as a deterrent or
Mm.
necessarily detract or distract me from what I was there to do. And I just carried on.
Well, Becky, I'm going to leave you with the final question we ask all of our guests, and that is, what is your best advice for a young Becky Scott?
Oh, for a young Beckie Scott, great question. I would say, oh, you know, not to worry so much, that everything would work out okay. I think I spent a lot of time, trying to predict the future and speculate, and that if I, and I always did this, but I think, staying true to my values and just staying focused on what I needed to do, and staying, yeah, close to that was really in the end all I needed to get where I wanted to go.
Hmm, that is fantastic advice. Becky, thank you so much for today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.